Here we are back at the show.
This crowd is
Just feel it. Yeah, just feel it out.
I want to see if anybody else is going to applaud. Then they'll go.
I pronounced one of our guests, the young gentleman from England, who is quite a singer. Very exciting that you will see tonight. His name is Gordino. I said Giordino. It's Peter Gordino.
Gordino.
He has 4 lovely young girls with him tonight that are going to dance. Yeah. Nice production number here tonight.
I saw one in makeup. A comely lassie. Blonde of coif. Rather clever of figure as well.
Oh, yes. Doc's going to be appearing this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like you didn't know. Up at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
With the Now Generation Brass and Today's Children, with the whole show. That he has successfully taken around the country and made a bundle with.
I'd like to mention that I'm going to be appearing at Buffalo.
What?
It'd be nice if you'd mention I'm going to be at Melody Fair in Buffalo this weekend with my act.
You'll be in
Melody Fair in Buffalo.
New York?
Buffalo, New York. Yes, they haven't moved it, have they?
No, Buffalo. You're going to...
What are you going to be doing this weekend?
Well, now that you bring it up, I open Las Vegas Saturday night.
Well,
did you know that?
We can mention all that.
I do. Freddie DeCordova will be back here.
Right.
No, we open for 2 weeks at the Sahara Hotel Saturday night. You're going to be in Buffalo, Doc. It's nice, everybody.
Nice to know we're all working.
Did you see the Patsy Awards last night?
No.
They have a show. I guess it's televised nationally, called the Patsy Awards every year, where they give awards to outstanding animals, which strikes me kind of funny. I don't know why. That have been in motion pictures or, I guess, television the past year. And tragedy struck last night. I don't know whether you knew it right afterwards. Well, Ben the Rat won. Did you know that? Ben the Rat won an award.
Whoa.
And before he could accept, Morris the cat ate him. And then Morris was chased up a tree by a dog by the name of Farouk, that also won up. The whole thing was a shambles. Betty White and Alan Ludden cried for a couple of days and just dissolved on them. Billy Graham, I like to count as a good friend. He certainly needs no laborious introduction. For the past, I guess, almost 2 decades, he has brought guidance and comfort to many, many millions of people of all faiths. Would you welcome, please, evangelist, author, educator, Dr. Billy Graham.
Well, that was quite a monologue, and I appreciated one thing about it. You've been reading the Bible, I see. You knew about the commandments.
Yes, I know. You know, I would sound awful, but if you ask me to name all 10 of them right now, and this probably sounds terrible, I would probably leave one out somewhere.
Oh, I think you could think of all of them.
Yeah,
because all of us have broken all of them. So I think we could figure them out.
Do you think everybody...
Everybody has broken every commandment, yes, sir. The Bible says if we break in one point, we're guilty of all.
Oh, I see.
And then when Jesus came after Moses, he explained that the 10 commandments can be broken in your heart by thought and intent. So in that sense, we're all guilty, and that's the reason the Bible says that everybody's a sinner. Even Ed is a sinner.
Well, that
comes as quite a surprise.
They could add, if there had been room on the tablets, they'd have put 4 more commandments on for him. Are you able to quote? I'm sure you are. I know some people who have memorized the entire Bible. I'm sure you have.
No, I have not.
Run across people that can do that.
I have memorized parts of it, but I met a man in Africa, an African in Nigeria, about 15 years ago, that had memorized the entire New Testament in 2 languages, English and his native language.
Well, that is incredible.
And I have met a number of people, not in America, but I've met a number of people in foreign countries that have memorized the entire Bible. I met several in Korea last week that had memorized the entire New Testament.
That's incredible. That requires some kind of almost special
And there are,
memory.
you know, and yet it's not so much because there are less words in the New Testament than in the average Sunday edition of the New York Times. And you know, many people read the New York Times through every week. Well, you could read the New Testament through every week if you wanted to.
I didn't realize that. Do you like what they have done? Do you like the modern interpretations of the Bible? And I read that they're working on now more or less an updated version of the King James.
Yes, there are a number of, in fact, there's about one version, I'm told, a week coming out.
Right. Some biblical scholars seem to feel that it loses I guess, something in the modernization.
Well, it does in some areas, but in others it makes it clearer, because you see, when Jesus and the other people in the Bible were speaking, they spoke the language of the people. We no longer speak that King James Version language, Elizabethan English. And many people don't understand the Bible just because they don't understand that language. It's no longer the language that America speaks, no longer the language that Britain speaks. I have people in areas where I come from, in North Carolina, up in the mountains, that some of them still speak Elizabethan English.
Is that true?
And some of those old hillbilly songs that we have are really from the old Scottish songs of 200 years ago.
You just mentioned Korea a moment ago. You've just been overseas and in Korea, and I understand the crowds were the largest you've practically ever played to in your life.
Well, they are probably the largest that anybody has ever spoken to in history, because the smallest crowd we had was 500,000. And the largest crowd was last Sunday afternoon. We had 1,100,000 in one service. And that was so incredible that I could hardly take it in.
Now, you're not talking about television, are you?
No.
Really? I mean, an actual mass
crowd.
of people.
We had 7 cameras on it. We have pictures of it, and it will be on television soon.
Well, we have some film excerpts, I think, of this crusade that you've made overseas. That is incredible. It's got to be a overwhelming feeling to stand up in front of a crowd.
Well, a historian told me the other day that the nearest that he knows in history was Dwight Eisenhower when he went to India in, I forgot what year, I think it was 55, and had about 800,000 that he spoke to at one time. But this crowd was electronically counted, and the organizers that counted it had a very ingenious way in which they counted. And so I would say it was fairly accurate. It might have been under or over. Some people thought it was over, some under. But it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million people.
That's incredible. Can we show some of these? We have a short film clip here. I believe this was shot in Seoul, Korea.
Seoul, Korea, that's correct.
And
I haven't seen this film.
Billy, you can comment on it.
That is our arrival at the airport. My wife and I are arriving at the Seoul airport about 2 weeks ago. And that is my wife. And they came out with all their flags, and a choir sang. They
Was
had
this your
government
first,
officials. No, I was in Korea during the war, the
Right.
Korean War, about 22 years ago, and spoke to people. Now, these are people here that when all-night prayer meetings, they stayed up all night to pray. And every church in Korea has a prayer meeting at 4:30 in the morning. And the Korean church is growing. Now, there's my wife and me in the plaza, which is 1 mile long, a paved strip, 1 mile long and about 1/4 of a mile wide. And we're talking on the day before the meetings begin. That's where the people are going to come, and they've marked it off so they can count the people. You see, each area there seats 4,000 in each square, and they marked it off so they count. Now, this is the last day where the 1 million people, now it fades into the background, the millions. They're in an airplane taking this quite some distance
I can see the
up.
crowd right in the middle.
And these are the people gathering. They started gathering several hours early, and in fact, many people were there all night. Thousands were there all night, spending the night so they could get a front seat. And they sat so close together. These are the people still coming together. And it was a fantastic sight for us. I had never seen so many people together anywhere, of course, in the world. And it was very much like talking on radio, because the people couldn't see me, and all I could see was a mass of faces. And that goes on for 1 mile in each direction.
Is that the interpreter now?
That is the interpreter. I say a phrase, and he says a phrase. I say God is love, he said God is love. I say God is great, he says God is great. And we go 1, 2, 1, 2, that quick. And he is very fast and very good. And the people listened, and they responded. And as I said, the church in Korea is growing 4 times faster than the population. Now, there I am leaving by helicopter, and they are waving goodbye to me with their programs.
Look at that.
1 million people saying goodbye to us.
That is
a very moving
incredible
sight.
scene. That's an incredible scene.
There's a great religious revival on all through the Far East. And as a matter of fact, I think the center and the gravitational center of Christianity is shifting now to the Far East. And this is happening in areas in Japan, in Thailand, in the Philippines, in Indonesia, more in Indonesia than any other country.
How do you account for that?
Well, Christianity began in the Middle East. It went to North Africa, then it went to Europe, then it shifted to America in the last century, and now it's moving to the Far East where it's never had much of a grip.
Well, they say history runs in cycles, and they're like all major countries have their particular decade or
That's right.
generation, and it revolves in kind of a historical cycle.
Well, my wife was born and reared in China.
That's what I heard.
And she had never been back to the Far East since then, since she was 17. And it was a very moving experience for her. She went to school in Korea, up in the North Korea, in Pyongyang. And it was a tremendous thing to see those people and the dedication and the discipline. They study. They get up early in the morning to pray. There are 1,500 Protestant churches in Seoul alone. And it's unbelievable what's happened in the last 5 years.
It was an incredible film. Let me interrupt for a second. Forgive me, but we will be right back after this word. Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Billy Graham. I always look forward to your visits on our show because I feel I can ask you questions, personal questions, which I'm sure a lot of people would ask around the country, and I always try to project myself and what you must be asked as you travel around. Do you ever think about death at all? I mean, does any fear of it? You read about so many people nowadays that seem to be so uptight about it, and I saw a program the other night about it where doctors were trying to prepare. Doctors had no preparation in how to treat patients that were, for example, terminal, and they found that people went through various stages about death. But I wonder, as a healthy man, we all think about it occasionally, but I wonder if you ever think about it and have any fear of it.
I think we think about it a great deal, Johnny, more than we admit, because the University of Louisville did a study some time ago of university and college young people, and the #1 subject that they think about between the ages of 18 and 22 is sex. And I believe it was about every 3 to 5 minutes they think about sex. And then the second
Time
subject,
interval has broadened out since I was in school.
the second subject that they think about most is death. And that comes about every 4 to 5 minutes. A person at that age level thinks about death.
That's incredible.
And the suicide rate, for example, among students, as you know, is very high throughout the world, in Japan or in Sweden or in the United States, all over the world. And young people do think about death, as well as older people. And it's going to happen to all of us, and yet we hate to face it. And I think that the subject of death has been suppressed in our generation, very much like sex was in the 19th century, the discussion of it. We buried it. We made out like it didn't exist.
Well, I got in some trouble a few weeks ago because with the morticians around the country, because I was talking about death and the fact that we tell children that the grandfather has just gone away and he is sleeping and so forth, rather than telling children exactly what does happen and about the high cost of funerals and the pomp that goes with it, and they kind of got on me.
But you know, the fear of death is gone when a person, when I found Christ as my Lord and my Savior, the fear of death was taken away, and now I'm just as certain that when I die, that I'm going into another world that's just as real as this one, that it's helped me to face life here and now.
That was my question. What do you envision after
That's
death?
right. Well, I envision heaven. And I'm not going there because I've preached to a lot of people. I'm not going there because I've read the Bible. I'm not going there because I'm good. I'm going there because of what Christ did for me on the cross. I'm saved by the grace of God. Now, the word grace carries with it the idea that I don't deserve it. I can't buy my way. I can't work my way. I'm a sinner, just like you, and just like Ed.
And you folks. Excuse me for interrupting. It's terrible. I hate to stop when we're just starting here, but please stay with us, and as soon as we get this out of the way, we'll come back and continue. And now a word from Doc about the American Motors Gremlin. Welcome back. We're talking with Billy Graham. Well, you were right in the midst of talking about when people die, rather than use the euphemism passing away or gone to your just reward. The correct word is die. So you have no fear because you've accepted, you said Christ is your Savior, and you have absolutely no fear. But when you said, and I think it may sound like a childish question, but I think even adults ask themselves, you envision life somewhat as it is here on earth, and that's very difficult for the average person to visualize at all.
I think that's the only thing, the only point of reference really that we have to go by is on earth, because we don't know. The Bible teaches that we are going to have a body, and it's going to be a body like that of Christ. The Bible teaches that the ultimate goal of the true believer is going to be a place called heaven or paradise. It's not going to be a place where we sit under palm trees and have a beautiful girl fan us, as some people envision heaven. It's going to be a place where we work. And I think that we are going to be able to go from planet to planet and from one part of the universe to the other, and I think we're going to be able to go as fast as thought. And I think we're going to have other worlds to conquer. We're going to have tremendous enterprises that we're going to do on other planets. And I think there are many indications in the Bible about this. We're not going to go and just sit down and rest and relax. Now, the first few years, I'd like to rest a while and play a little golf.
Sure.
And I hope they have golf balls and
They have
the
a
whole
great
thing
course.
up there.
They have a great course.
Because I'll miss it if we don't. But I asked my wife one day, who's a great student of the Bible, I said, Ruth, do you think there's going to be golf in heaven? She gave a marvelous reply. She said, if golf is important for your happiness, it'll be there.
Can't argue with that. Do you also envision for the sinner that, say, doesn't accept in the Christian religion Christ as your Savior, that there is purgatory, per se? Do you think there's that kind of a God that would condemn or damn people? But when children grow up, you know, they are told this very often. You be good, you go to heaven. And that's the child's concept of heaven, is sitting around on a cloud. Mm-hmm. If you are bad, you will be punished. And that's kind of a frightening concept for a young mind to grab a hold of.
It is frightening, and it should be. I think that the Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And we have a false concept of God. God is a God of holiness. He's a God of righteousness. He's a God of judgment. And a person who faces Christ straight out and deliberately rejects him, that person is in a totally different category than the person in the middle of China that never had a chance and never heard. The person who deliberately rejects is going to pay a fearful price. Now, Jesus used a number of words to describe it. So does the Old Testament. The prophets used it. It's called punishment. It's called condemnation. It's called Hades. It's called all sorts of things. Whatever it is, and I'm not prepared to say what it is, but what it is, it's separation from God, and that in itself will be hell. Because you take in this life, if you live this life totally separated from God, from all love and all joy and all peace and all satisfaction, that would be hell in this world. So in a sense, the person who doesn't know God here is already, in a sense, in hell. Mm-hmm. And that will be extended into the future life, according to the Bible. And I think it is something to contemplate. I think that we're taught that fear is very important. I teach my children that to watch out for rattlesnakes, because we have a lot where I live. I teach them to be careful in traffic. My son flies an airplane. I always say, be careful when you go up there. I want him to have a certain amount of tension and fear as he's flying, mm-hmm. so that he doesn't have a wreck and kill himself. And there is a legitimate fear. And I think we should face squarely who God is and what he demands of us.
Do you feel sorry for people who espouse the atheistic philosophy and live their life and say, all right, I'm not rejecting God, they just live their life as if God does not exist, and they go their way and do their thing?
Well, I would, 99% of the American people say they believe in God, mm-hmm. according to the Catholic Digest. But there are millions of what I would call practical atheists. They say with their mind they believe in God. Something inside says, well, there must be a God, but they live as though there is no God. Mm-hmm. And so, in a sense, that is a form of atheism. And to those people, I think that's a very dangerous life.
Yeah. Can I ask you a personal question now? And I'm not asking this as a shock value, because I'm sure as someone who goes all around the world, you're from that. Have you ever seen an X-rated movie? I don't mean that to put you on the spot, but it's so much in the news, and it has so much to do, a lot of people think, with morality or a lessening of morality in the country. And I just wondered, as somebody who preaches the gospel in your line of work, that you would have to see it to be able to be informed.
Well, I have seen several R-rated movies. I saw 2 in a hotel where you call down and order room service, and they turn it on your television screen.
I didn't know that.
And I went to see. I saw one with my son in London. He wanted to see one that he said was a marvelous picture about motorcycles. And it was called The Mechanic. I found out that it had nothing to do with motorcycles. And it was AAA rated in London. It was supposed to be excellent, but they killed people in every way possible. I think that you can kill, and people died in every way possible you can die. And the the R-rated in this country, I think, would come from the violence rather than sex. There was no sex in the picture.
Right. Would you say...
I don't make it a practice to go see it.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way. I think what I was trying to draw, do you think that, say, a young person, and using, they'll say the word normal, I'm not talking about the average young person, would be more adversely affected by exposure to an explicit sexual film than he would to excessive violence in a film where, as you say, that there is killing and murder and garrotings and so forth for no rhyme or reason? Which of those do you think would affect him or harm him the most? Do you think...
I think both would harm him. I think that I wouldn't be prepared to say which would be the worst. I think the violence that we're seeing in some of our pictures today is having a devastating effect on people. It can't help but have it. I think that we're seeing it in the generation that we're growing up in today. This is the first generation that is a television-reared generation. Now, this is not against television. Right. I'm for television. I use television. It's the greatest means of communication we've ever had. But just like atomic energy, you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And I think that a great deal of what we see today, especially in the motion pictures, they're trying to get more pornographic and more violent to attract people back to the theater. But I think that we have seen in Sound of Music or the Walt Disney films that you can make great motion pictures and make a lot of money and be clean. And I think that there is a swing back in that direction. I was reading the other day, I think it was Frances Langford or some former film star who said that she wasn't going back to see any motion pictures till they cleaned up. And I think that when we say clean up, we think in terms of sex, but I say in terms of violence. Right. The violence, I think, is helping to create a great deal of the violence in our society. And I would like to see some good, clean, honest, great motion pictures like we used to have.
Yeah, maybe it'll come about. I hope.
You know, if you want to see a good movie now, you have to wait and see something on The Late Show, maybe, and see something that was made about 25 or 30 years ago.
They're all playing, too. What's the most often single question you're asked?
I suppose that the one that I would be asked the most is, how do I find God? I think that more people write me or ask me that question than any other question. I would say the greatest problem people write me about is loneliness. I think loneliness is probably the greatest problem in America as far as the psychological problem that people face.
From both young and old?
From both young and old. You can be lonely in a crowd, and psychologists have begun to call it cosmic loneliness. In other words, I can be in a party, having a big time, and all of a sudden, for just a moment or two, there sweeps over me a sense of loneliness. And I personally believe this is a loneliness for God. We're made for God, and without God, we have a loneliness. There's a dissatisfaction, and we never find it. No matter how powerful or how rich or what pleasures we have, there's something empty there that only God can fill.
You were just telling me during a break your schedule coming up, which is incredible. You leave tomorrow, I believe, for Atlanta?
Yes, I'm going to Atlanta, and we open in Atlanta next Monday night in the Atlanta Stadium where the Falcons and the Braves play, and we'll be there for a week. And then I go to Minneapolis for a crusade in the fairgrounds, and then I go to Israel and to Jordan, and then to London for a crusade in August, and then in September in the University area of North Carolina in the stadium, and then to St. Louis, and so on and so on.
Just fantastic. Well, I hope between one of those trips you will drop by and see us again.
And sometime we'd like to have you and Ed come to one of our crusades.
We could probably use it, Billy. Badly. Get us before it's too late. Thanks for being here. As I mentioned earlier, Mel Brooks was one of our first guests from our first show. The other guests that particular night were Joan Crawford, Groucho Marx, and Rudy Valley, along with Tony, who will be out shortly. Then I think Mel had, the album, The 2,000-Year-Old Man, had not been out too long. Anyway, Mel Brooks has gone on to bigger things as a writer, producer, star, kumquat, ashtray, shoehorn, many things. Would you welcome Mr. Mel Brooks? Well, here we are.
Wow.
Just like
62.
yesterday.
You know, I was the last guest
Were you?
on that show, and I'm the first guest on it. I've moved forward. I've moved ahead.
5 spots up the couch.
Yes.
Do you remember the first show at all? Some of it's just kind of a haze to me.
I remember the...
Groucho, you know, I did the first 15 minutes that night.
Yes, yes. I remember Joan Crawford came on with a wire hanger. I don't know why. But anyway, no. It was a... No, I'm only kidding.
Of course you are. That's
Yeah.
what you get paid for.
Yeah. Gee, this is really, it's very touching. It's very moving. It's very emotional. A week from now, somebody's going to be saying, "Where's Johnny?"
Anyway,
this-
give me those pictures. I'm going to show you this. Somebody dug these out today. I want to show you first. I'm going to show them to the audience. These are from the actual first show. Black and white pictures. All the Kinneys and the tapes of those early shows are gone, like the first 10 years. But yeah, that's true. The tapes are all gone. But here you are sitting at the desk with Joan Crawford. Look at the monitor. You can see it better. There is a younger Mel Brooks and a younger Johnny Carson and a live Joan Crawford. No, I didn't mean it that way. Oh, hey, folks. Hey, I had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry. I don't know what you were doing here. What the hell were you doing here?
I was probably doing my impression of Tony Bennett, who came on after me.
From the first show.
Look at our hair, got all white. What happened to us?
I don't know. What happened?
I don't know. I had a Danish and a cup of coffee, and I'm suddenly 65. What the hell happened to me?
Dorian Gray, right? The king lives. Why didn't you wait for me? Why didn't you wait for the king is dead? Long live the king.
I'm sorry. I think I got Ed's drink. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Hey, I was talking about a 2,000-year-old
The
man.
king lives. How did that used to go? Remember?
What do you mean? You were just taking a drink.
Yes.
And they say,
I was. Yes.
the king is dead. Long live the king. The king lives. The king lives. That was
The king is still alive.
That's
the king
right.
Is still alive.
That's
Not
right.
yet. Oh, look at this. Oh, those were the good old days. I just had to get it straight. Just had to get it straight.
Okay. 2,000-year-old man. You ever do that anymore?
Yeah, at parties and things. By the way, Rhino Records loves it so much, they're going to reissue those things on CDs. And
I remember going to parties when you and Carl. I remember the live parties when you and Carl would sit around and he would just start throwing anything like, what did you do for recreation when you were 2,000 years old?
I said golf. We played golf.
Played golf 2,000 years ago?
Many thousands of years ago was the matrix, the beginning of golf.
I didn't know
it
that.
It started very naturally. A skunk
A skunk?
would come by the mouth of your cave. You'd take a stick, you'd say, "Get the hell out of here." It would travel a while.
That's right.
You know? Go by somebody else. He'd say, "Get the hell out of here."
So there were no golf
When
balls,
it
of
fell in
course.
a hole, then everybody was happy.
That's
that
right.
was golf.
I see. It started that way.
Sure, that's how it was. I just made that up.
Did you have any children?
I had over 42,000
42,000 children?
Yes. And not one comes to visit me.
See, you do remember.
I do remember.
Oh, man. Where'd you grow up? New York?
I grew up in New York. I grew up in Williamsburg. Williamsburg is actually a section of Brooklyn, just where the Williamsburg Bridge enters Brooklyn. It's the only thing that's not afraid to enter Brooklyn. Anyway.
Was it a tough neighborhood?
Yeah,
then?
it was very tough. It was very tough. As a matter of fact, it was so tough. We used to go to the Woolworths to steal. Naturally, nobody had money.
Yeah.
You know? So we go to the Woolworths, and there was this guy, a little Filipino guy that was demonstrating yo-yos, and he'd say, "Now we going to walk the dog," and he'd do it. And he'd walk the yo-yos. And he'd come and he'd say, "Now we walking the dog back." And he'd walk the dog. While he was walking the dog, we were stealing yo-yos. You know? We were very busy. One day, unbeknownst to me, but knownst to the manager of the store, I copped a little toy pistol, this big little thing, and I put it in here. I started to go out the door, and he said, "Hey!" And I pulled out the gun. I said, "Get back, I'll blow your head off!" And he jumped back, and I ran away. I still got the gun. It was
You know, I actually stole something from Woolworths also when I was a kid. Most embarrassing, it was a little ring, you know, like one of, and I put it, and the manager came over and said, "Would you give me the ring?" I said, "I didn't take anything." He says, "Let's go to your father's office." I live in a small town, and he started to walk me over, and I did the first known case of plea bargaining, I think. Outside here. I said, I gave it to him at Pride, and he says, "All right, but isn't that awful?"
Oh, it's awful. I snuck into a movie house with my friend Benji, and they said to us, "Look, do you want a beating, or should we tell your mother?" I said, "Tell my mother." Benji said, "I'll take the beating." He was a fool, you know?
Did you, you used to work in the Catskills?
Oh, yeah, the mountains.
Upstate New York, the mountains.
The Borscht Belt.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
A lot of the great comedians, comics started there.
It was a great phenomenon. I was a drummer.
I know.
On Saturday afternoons, Buddy Rich took an hour out of his life and would
sit down and
teach me how to play. And it happened because Mickey Rich was his brother, the alto, wonderful alto sax player. And Mickey was a friend of mine. I went to Lincoln High School, and I went back to the house, and there was this drum set, and I went boom, boom, boom. And at the door, I heard stinks. I turned around, there was Buddy. He said, "But I want you here at 11 o'clock every time." He taught me for about 6 or 7 months. He took an hour out of his Saturdays, you know, when he wasn't on the road. He was the greatest guy.
Trouble with Buddy teaching, he never read music. And he would just say, "Here's the way you do. How do you do that?" "Well, you do it this way."
Right, he'd show you.
We couldn't tell you.
And then when he saw Blazing Saddles, I finally made it. You know, I made this remarkable hit, Blazing Saddles. It was a big hit. And I ran into Buddy at a favorite Italian restaurant we used to go to in New York, Patsy's.
Right.
And he came up to me with tears in his eyes, and he said, "Gee, it's such a big hit, and you could have been a good drummer, Mel."
That killed him, huh?
And he meant it. He meant
great.
it. But yeah.
Do we have to leave for a second? Or we'll interrupt for this, but we're coming back. So here we are, folks. Doing fine. Okay, we are back. Now, all right, I want you to tell. Now, you've told me. I know you've told
why
it.
I love doing this show? I don't do it often, especially when I have nothing to sell.
Of course.
It's terrible. But you always, in the 40 years that I know you,
Right.
you always listened. The other show hosts, whether it was Merv or Les Kern, I mean, they never looked at you. They never listened. They were always very busy with, "Get the cotton candy later for me," you know? They're always talking to somebody off camera. You always were a mensch, a gentleman.
Well, thank you.
I mean, really.
If I don't listen to you, I don't know what we're talking about. You got to listen. Anyway, thank you. I know you've told the story before, the Cary Grant story.
I did that on the last show.
Who cares? Tell the Cary Grant story.
Oh, yeah.
All right, but you know it. All right, folks, when I left the Sid Caesar show, well, not actually left, I was kind of fired, but sort of fired. Anyway, I came out to Hollywood to write a movie. I was at Universal Studios, working with a guy called Marvin Schwartz. I trusted him. Anyway, across the street, I saw there was another bungalow. We were working in a bungalow, and on the top of the bungalow it said Grant Art. I said, what does that mean? What the hell is Grant Art? He said, "Well, that's Cary Grant's company. Grant Art. I said, "Well, does Cary Grant ever come to that bungalow?" He said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Sure. You're kidding." He said, "No, he'll be here in about 10 minutes. He comes every day for lunch. He'll be here about 10 to 12. He shows up. It's about 11:45. He'll be here." I said, "Cary Grant, I mean, I'm going to see him in person." "Yes, Cary Grant will be here." So I waited by the drapes. And sure enough, a guy in a double-breasted suit with a little yellow boutonniere walks down. He leaves this guy, jumps up the steps 2 at a time, bounds through the door. I said, "It looked like Cary Grant." He said, "It was Cary Grant." I said, "Holy mackerel, Cary Grant. He's about 60 yards away from me. Cary Grant. I grew up in Brooklyn. Cary Grant." Oh, my God, I think I'm going to faint. He said, "Hey, we see him every day." I said, "But I don't." My, Cary Grant. Cary Grant. So anyway, I waited. He said, "He'll be coming out to lunch soon." I said, "He's coming out to lunch soon. We're going to see him." See, there, about 10 minutes later, he bounced down the steps. I said, oh my God, it's Cary Grant, it's Cary Grant. So he said, come on, let's go to lunch. So we walked down the path, and I somehow take another road, and I hear behind me, Man Brooks. I turn around, it's Cary Grant. I bought every single one of your albums. You've made me poor, blah. I said, oh my God, he's talking to me. Cary Grant is actually talking to me. I said, Marvin, what should I do? He said, talk back to him. But all right. I said, hello, Cary Grant. I called him by one name, Cary Grant.
Cary Grant.
I figured that was his name.
Cary Grant.
I didn't know him well enough to call him Mr. Grant or Cary. I called him Cary Grant. I said, hiya, Cary Grant. You look good, Cary Grant. Are you really Cary Grant? And he said, come on, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going into the lunchroom there. And he said, oh, the commissary, yeah, come with me, Bart, I'll buy you lunch. Oh, my God, Cary Grant is going to buy me lunch. Oh, so I went in, and I sat next to him, and he had a hard-boiled egg. That's all he had. I don't know why. And I had a tuna fish sandwich on whole wheat with a slice of tomato. No mayo, hold the mayo. And I ate the sandwich, and then we left together, and he said, walking down the path, he said, what's your favorite color? I said, blue. He said, yellow. I said, yellow is yours, blue is mine. What's your favorite car? I said, a Buick. He said, a Rolls Royce. I said, that's nice. And we talked like that, you know. Me saying Buick, he saying Rolls Royce. It was a very interesting conversation. He went to Grand Art, I went to Schwartz. I thought that was it. The next day, about 11:45, we get a call. Is Mel Brooks there? Yes. It's Cary Grant. Would you like to go to lunch? Sure, Cary. All right. Holy mackerel, Cary Grant. All right, I comb my hair. I brush my teeth with my finger. Very nervous. Cary Grant, we go in again. He has a hard-boiled egg. All right, I don't say nothing. I have a corned beef sandwich with mustard on rye. Okay, one of the few out there that ate it that way. The rest had it with mayonnaise on white. So he says, what do you like to play? I said, well, I like to play football. I like to play baseball. He said, well, I like to play party games. Oh, that's interesting. Like Ghost. What is Ghost? You dress up? No, G, you get a G. H, you get an H. Ghost. Oh, fine. And we talked. Okay, interesting. He goes to Grand Art. I go to Schwartz. I'm back home. The next day at 11:45, ring, it's Cary. All right, I meet him outside. We go on a lunch together. Me and Cary Grant, Mel Brooks and Cary Grant, we're holding hands. We don't know what to do for each other. We don't know what to say to each other. Anyway, let me tell you the punchline. Comes Friday, the phone rings, it's Cary Grant. I said, I'm not in.
Enough already.
We didn't know what to say. I had nothing more to say to him. I said my favorite color. I said my favorite car.
I'm not in.
I mean, there was nothing more to talk about.
We'll be back.
We'd exhausted our conversation.
Here's one of the funniest gentlemen that I've ever met. He's a good friend, and he's done something a little bit different. Recently he's made an album of The Little Prince with Richard Burton, which will be released at Christmas and on NBC. What is that? And on December the 5th, not on NBC. I see 3 letters, and it's brainwashed in there. I call it December NBC. And on December the 5th. You will appear at the Mark Hopkins Hotel at a benefit dinner there to keep San Francisco beautiful. Would you welcome a very funny gentleman, Mr. Jonathan Winters?
I like that kind of Toyland music there. Dun, 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 dun. Dance of the Sugar Plum Boys or whatever it is. That's kind of cute. I don't know what that was.
You're kind of toy-like yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, all year round, I like to go to the window, and the toy windows and look at the little funny things in the window, the little toys, whatever they are.
What have you been doing lately? I haven't seen you for a while.
I've been doing literally nothing. I've been watching prices soar. And I'm now going back into my old wardrobe, wearing things with the little funny narrow lapels, cutting back, and wearing shoes that are worn. These rascals are shot, but I'm cutting back. Boy, I'm making a lot of cuts. No, I haven't
Are
done
you turning the
anything
thermostat down at all? Or?
Oh, yeah, we turned that off.
Turn it completely
Turned that
off.
off. And I'll tell you, seriously, we had a friend of ours come out here from Ohio. She's back in Columbus, and... Bless your heart. She came back from Columbus, and she stayed just a couple of days. She was in some kind of speech therapy. She was over in Vegas on a convention, and oh God, no end to the clapping order. So at any rate, she came to visit us as she has in the past, and she said, "My gosh, it's cold in this house. It's just." Can't you turn the heat up a little? And I said, no, there's no chance. My wife and I are quite comfortable, Dory. And she said, Lord, I'm freezing. I said, well, put on all your clothes, put on more dresses.
A little Mackinac or something.
Sure, because I said, we're not turning it up. And she looked at us. It was that funny look to say, can't you afford to turn it up just a little? And I said, we can, but we won't.
No.
And she left rather angrily.
Mm-hmm. How about your basement? That's where you do all the
Basement's
your
even
artwork.
colder. Yes, I paint in my basement, and it's a nice little setup for me. It's very, very cozy. As I told you, I think I mentioned on the show before, I'm not too far from the furnace, and so I can check on that. Then what did I have happen? I had a thing happen. I was painting the other night, and some glue spilt on the floor, and I forgot momentarily. I phase out,
Just a little.
constantly, just phase out. And here was glue just all over, and my cat came down, and I noticed Kitty was quite still. And so I said, come on, Kitty, 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 come on, Tiger. That's
Tiger.
his name, Tiger. Come on, Tiger, come on, Tiger. And Tiger's just like this, And I looked down at his little paws, and he was in quite hard in the glue. And I said, well, it's tough, I'm strong, I can get out of it. And I said, you just make up your mind you're going to get out of that glue. But I had to give him some help.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So, Lefty's paws, but... No, I'm kidding.
Kind of a memento in the basement there,
There are
certainly.
a lot of people there from the ASPCA saying, oh, that's terrible. No, I got the kitty out fine and cleaned his little paws thoroughly, gave him a thorough cleaning, and then proceeded to put on little booties on the kitty. It's a little...
Is that the only pet you have
little
around the
project.
house?
Yeah, well, we have a cat and a dog now. We lost a couple of pets. But our dog, yes, we have a small dog who's just a cur. About a 25, 35-cent dog. Very, very pleasant. It has about a 35-cent bark,
Did you pick him up at the pound or just...
No, we didn't pick him up at the pound. We found him on a porch. And just like this, walked up, picked the dog up, waved at the people in the house, and with the dog. He didn't seem to care, so drove off. But it was an older couple, and I just don't think they wanted any trouble.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But no, that's about it. It just kids are doing fine.
I think.
Yeah, my boy's looking for work, and I don't know what he's going to do.
Has he decided yet?
No, he's going to be 25 in February, and he goes from one unusual job to another. But he's a good boy, and I told him, I said, hang in there, and I'm not going to give you any allowance or anything like that, just to sit around, and smoke a funny cigarette and listen to Bob Dylan. So I said, you're going to have to hustle,
Start cracking.
Oh, yeah, start cracking. And so he's out there, and he says, well, Dad, like yourself, I'm looking for some work.
Yeah. Well, you work about as much as you want, don't you?
Well, yes, I really can't complain. I make a good living. I'm very happy. I really very proud of the fact that I don't have any outstanding bills. There are a couple that I think, we've got to look into soon. But overall, I feel,
Pretty well covered.
to my knowledge, there's nobody coming after me. But no, I really can't complain. I complain like the bulk of the country, about the economy and what's happening, our taxes and one thing. That's all very normal. But I really, at our age, you're 49 now, aren't you?
Yes, that's true. Mm-hmm.
So am I. At our
As you
age,
said once on the show before, we're in that
final glide path. Yes. Think of that lady who was out here 105. That'll be interesting to see you doing the show at that age, Johnny. You and I, huh?
Sitting here.
You 105, me. Hi.
Are you still in the basement here?
Oh, don't get down there anymore. Too far to go. Everything now is in one room.
I don't know I'd want to be on.
Enjoy it now when I'm 49.
I don't know what state the world's going to be in another 55 years, so I don't know. I really want to check up on that.
It's kind of scary, yeah. Well, it's a day-to-day basis,
Tell you what we do. When we come back, we talk briefly.
Back?
Yeah, we're coming back. We thought we would just, you do a lot of improvisations on your show, and you do great characters. As you've often said, you don't tell jokes as much as you do people and situations, and do a lot of improvisation. So briefly, we're sitting in makeup tonight and says, well, maybe we'll just try some interviews. The kind of typical interviews,
Right. Okay.
We have so many different type of people on the show, stars and directors and producers and so forth.
Right.
And we'll come back and we'll just formulate a thing, and you can play a couple of guests. Okay?
All right.
We'll take a short pause, and we'll be right back after this. And here's the pain reliever to help you get a good night's sleep, and you know how important that is. Gentle Excedrin PM. I don't have to give you this gentleman's qualifications as an actor. I think he is probably considered by other actors and people in the entertainment profession as probably the greatest actor of our times. I admire him for that. I also admire Marlon Brando for his conscience as an American and his moral commitment when he believes in something. Will you welcome, please, Mr. Marlon Brando.
Thank you. The last time I was on the show, I can hardly remember it, but I remember vague things about it. I almost fell down as I came in. I was so dead drunk I couldn't...
No, you weren't. Now, people ask about that show.
That's true. You know what they do for people who don't know? They don't have the custom anymore, but they used to... They have a room back there where everybody sits and talks before the show, and they used to serve drinks. And you start listening to the show, and not being a habitual tipper, I would listen and talk and listen and jabber with people, and the first thing you know, you're over the abyss and you haven't realized it. And they say, now, on the stage, you know.
The first time we started that was when you were on the first time in California.
Well, that was when you finished it, I think.
That's right, and we said no more. And because we served champagne, we were in California, we thought that would be swell. And you walked out. I remember you weren't as bad as you thought you were.
That's a compliment.
And you came out and you saw the lights, and the lights hit you. And you went, all of a sudden you sounded just like Stanley Kowalski. They said, man, well, these lights are kind of bright, aren't they? And it was a great interview, one of the highlights of our show. So we've given that up.
You'll have to rerun it for me because it's a blur in my memory.
Marlon, we knew you were in town. We got together and we have talked. We've known each other for a few years. And I'm sure that most people around the country who, unless they have not read the paper, have realized, and it was in headlines from other papers yesterday, that you have stepped out of a motion picture that you were going to do with Elia Kazan, The Arrangement, for a very important reason. And I thought you might like to mention why, and then we'll pick up from there.
Yeah, it was a very tough decision to make because I can't think of a director that's better than Gaj Kazan. To me, he is the best director. And I've looked forward during the intervening years since I worked with him last to working with him again. It's, of course, the story of the year, perhaps the last 2 years. And I wanted to do it more than anything. And King got shot. And I sat in front of the television set, and I wondered what it meant to me that he's dead, and that he died, and his last act was trying to get a 15-cent wage increase for garbage men, and that he was hauled to his grave by 2 mules on a rickety cart, and that on his tombstone was written, free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last. And in his last speech on television, as I watched the news reports come over, it showed his last words the night before, and he said that he'd been to the mountain and that he'd seen the promised land. And he said, I don't know if I'm going to get there with you, but it doesn't matter about me, because I know we're going to get there. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. And he was shot dead the next day. And I thought, somehow this has got to matter somewhere. And if we don't, all the citizens, do something that is a person-to-person contribution, I don't think that we're really going to have any place to come home to if we do get a job. I felt that it was, there was just nothing that I could do in terms of what I know and what I see and what I feel. I couldn't think of any other alternative rather than to make my time, my energies, and my money fully available to do what I can as an individual to rectify the situation we're in.
You think it rather paradoxical that he seemed to accomplish, by dying, something that he might not have accomplished, maybe in time, but since his death. And you sometimes feel that maybe there's going to be a period of 2 or 3 weeks where everybody is going to say, yes, it was terrible, and it made everybody conscious of it, but really, maybe things won't change unless, you know, the time becomes right now.
I don't think they will, Johnny. I think that nothing is really going to change unless I do it, unless the trombone player does it, unless the guy sitting and watching the television with a beer can does something about it. The president appointed a rather conservative group of men to investigate the reasons for civil disorders. And it came out in this book I brought along tonight, which might be of interest. It's called The Report of the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders. It's a Bantam book. You can get it anywhere. But it tells in chapter and verse the situation we're in, why we're in it, and why the black people can't get up off their knees. And it points very specifically to the white man and his feeling about the black man. It points to racism and discrimination in its most subtle forms and its most cruel and blatant forms. And that's where it is. That's the Bible. The President commissioned these people to find out. They did find out, and it's before us now. I don't think there's 1 in 100,000 Americans that have ever read it. But it isn't enough to talk anymore. It isn't enough to shake our fingers. We have to do something. We have to get up our money. We have to give our time. We have to give our hearts. And we must be involved in a person-to-person program. Fundamentally, because now that King is dead, many people, I think, and you've certainly felt it too, that there is the vacuum formed, and people...
I think a lot of people are worried that maybe the militants might rush in and try to fill that vacuum.
Well, that's where it's going to go. And I think that we've got one chance. I was talking with Walter Reuther on the way to King's funeral in the march, and Walter Reuther said that we've got one last chance as white people to straighten things around in this country. And if we don't do it soon, and if we don't do it massively, then it's going to be Armageddon, it's going to be guns, it's going to be thousands of people killed, it will be internment camps, we will have reduced ourselves as a nation and our stature as a people, importantly. And so the only thing I could think to come up with was trying to get a program where people would contribute no less than 1% of their entire year's earnings to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was King's organization, to further his philosophy and to further his works, to carry on his good works in the name of nonviolence and with the help of his beautiful wife, Mrs. King. I think there is where we have to throw our full support. I think the black people are losing heart and belief. Whatever residual of faith that the white man was going to treat them equally and fairly is now running out. And I dread to think what's going to happen. But we now have to do it in a person-to-person way.
I think something that people, I don't want to interrupt you when I talk here. I think something that people don't think of, the more the other person benefits economically and socially, the more everybody will benefit in the long run.
Well,
it has to better everybody, not only them. That's not part of it. It's got to do more for everybody in the long run, because the more you up anybody else, the more you're going to be up along the way.
That's right. That's what Ruther said. He said that it costs us an enormous amount of money to keep black people in the position that they're in. You see, what will happen if we do nothing? People will be angrier and angrier and angrier. Frustrations will rise, and tensions will mount, and violence will occur. Because black people have been promised help, that help has not been forthcoming. At the same time, as that tension and violence rises, there will be a white withdrawal, so that people will be in fear and anger on both sides. They will be forming what you might say is polarization. A polarization will be formed, and the only people that are going to be in the center are people with guns.
Well, there's no way this country can exist with two races apart.
It can exist, but we're not going to exist the way we'd like to exist that way.
No, I said it really can't exist in the long run.
No. I think that we do have one chance left, one shot in the barrel, and the time is running out. But, so I got together with some people, and we decided that we were going to give up our time and money and use our time for action rather than non-action, rather than just jaw action. We were going to do something in a very specific way. What we hope to do is to try to get the Congress to pass these laws, to get the legislators to pass the laws that have to be passed in order for us to come together in peace and unity and productiveness. But that's going to take a certain amount of time. But I might at this point give you some very encouraging news.
I know you've talked to a certain number of people all in our business already about this.
In the last day and a half, or actually today and yesterday, I've talked to a number of people. I got one hesitation and no refusals. Les Crane, Rudy Kelly, Murph Griffin, Joey Bishop, Barbara Streisand, Joanne Woodward, Zev Putterman, Paul Newman, Alex Cohen, who's the producer of the Emmy Awards, and Drew Pearson, who I just left on the phone a few minutes ago, are all willing to give up 1% of their annual salary and send it as a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King and his foundation. I'm going to give up 10% of my earnings for the year, and there's no limit. We don't feel that it's right that we should accept anything less than 1%. But That isn't enough. Money isn't enough. Money will buy us time. But programs and so on said you can't legislate hate in the human heart. It's there. But we have to ask ourselves. I mean, this report clearly indicates that the black people have not been able to pick themselves up by their bootstraps because of white feelings against them. And we, all of us, have to find out, what is that? Why do we feel that way? What are these reasons? And the first time you talk to a racist, when I say racist, I'm not talking like a bigot like Wallace or, something like that. But if you talk to someone who is a racist, they don't know it. They don't feel it. I think all of us, if we really mine the deepest areas of our feelings, will find maybe some trace of that. And we've got to find that. We've got to root it out, and we've got to go ahead in terms of action and feeling. And primarily, that's
A positive commitment.
yes, a positive.
When you called me, we talked the day before yesterday, you asked me and you explained this, and I said at that time, and I said, I didn't want to be wishy-washy, and I said, I don't know. I guess I wanted, to hear more about what was going to happen. And as you know me well enough, I think, I said, if I do anything, I certainly did not want to do it, for publicity's sake. And at the same time, if you don't get the message out, I guess, and do something in public, you are committed, but sometimes you're committed anonymously. So when you asked me would I be willing, and I told you this afternoon, I said, I'll tell you tonight. Now, I would be very happy to be a part of this, because I think, truly, it is time to stand up and be counted in this country where you stand, rather than just talking about it. Because it's pretty strange. If we cannot learn to live together in this country, I don't know how, in hell's sake, we are ever going to learn to live with anybody else in the world or understand the Asian or anybody else if we can't understand the people who are here. So I would be very happy to give you tonight, and as I say, I would prefer not to do this, but I'm doing it only as a help, because anything that will get this thing going, I would be delighted. I would be happy to give you a check, and I told you about this before the show, for 1% of my income for the year, for exactly what you want, and I hope it does some good.
It's beautiful.
I'll send you home. Huh?